ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಮೊದಲ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ತೆಂಕಣ ನುಡಿ ಕೌದಿ. ಇದರ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆಗೆ ದಕ್ಷಿಣ ಭಾರತದ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆಯ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಸಾಹಿತಿಗಳು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರನ್ನ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರ್ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ಹಿರಿಯರಾದಂತಹ ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಕೆ ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾನಂದನ್ ಸರ್ ದಯಮಾಡಿ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ವಿನಂತಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಸತೀಶ್ ಚತುರ್ಥಿಯವರು ಅವರನ್ನ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಕರೆತರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
We now invite Mr. H.S. Shivaprakash sir to kindly come onto the stage.
H.S. Shivaprakash sir ದಯಮಾಡಿ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ವಿನಂತಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇವೆ.
Inviting Madam Volga onto the stage.
ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ವೋಲ್ಗಾ ಅವರು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಆಗಮಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
Mr. B. Jeyamohan.
ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಬಿ ಜಯಮೋಹನ್ ಅವರು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಆಗಮಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆತ್ಮೀಯ ಸ್ವಾಗತ.
And Mr. Vivek Shanbhag.
ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ವಿವೇಕ್ ಶಾಂಭಾಗ್ ಅವರು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಆಗಮಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
Hearty welcome to all the dignitaries.
ಈ ಉತ್ಸವದ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ತೆಂಕಣ ನುಡಿ ಕೌದಿ ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ ಮೂಲಕ ಬುಕ್ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಲಿಟರೇಚರ್ ಫೆಸ್ಟಿವಲ್ 2024 ಬುಕ್ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಸಂಭ್ರಮದ ಉತ್ಸವ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಗೊಳ್ಳಲಿದೆ. ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಗೌರವದಿಂದ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆಯೊಂದಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಅವರನ್ನ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸೋಣ.
A warm welcome to all the dignitaries with a big round of applause.
Over to you, sir.
Dear fellow panelists and dear lovers of literature, I'm extremely pleased to see that for the first time perhaps in the history of India, a literature focused entirely on South India, a literature festival focused on South India is being organized. I congratulate all the organizers, including of course Satish and his team, for having thought of a festival where these languages which have shared a kind of kinship for centuries are brought together and they are invited for a meaningful dialogue on whatever has been happening in those languages in the past and what is happening in the present. As all of us know, South Indian languages are deeply and organically connected. Of course, they have their own identities, they have their own particular movements, and even aesthetically there may be differences in concepts. You have Kaviraja Marga here and Jeyamohan represents, in fact, in some sense, another kind of poetics, so the Trinai poetics, which is perhaps the first kind of eco-aesthetics we ever had. And so that way, all our languages have our own aesthetic concepts. All our languages, however, have deep Dravidian roots. That's exactly what unites all the languages of South India. And we have also different forms. A form like Vachana, I don't find in Malayalam, and forms like Panni or Kummi or various other kinds of forms we may not find in Telugu. You may not find Burakatha in Kannada, and you may not find Attakatha, which is the text of Kathakali, in any other South Indian language. This is also true of Ottan Tullal, another kind of dance which is part classical and part folk. So, despite these differences, our languages have shared a lot, have shared movements, have shared concepts. We have even to a great extent a shared vocabulary, but we may not completely understand one another. We understand at least quite a few words from other South Indian languages. And I'm sure this is going to expand and the festival will get enlarged in the coming years because we have to include also, I think already Tulu has been included, Tulu and Bari have been included this time. And you will have other languages, including many tribal languages of the south, which I hope will will be represented in the coming festivals. Maybe already some representation is there. So that it becomes a more comprehensive kind of festival of all the South Indian languages. So this festival is in that sense a kind of a beginning of a great opening up that's going to happen across the years. Because at least for 10 years, I'm sure this festival, the organization of the festival has been guaranteed. And so we will go on to discuss various aspects of South Indian literature, particularly as it exists today, the various influences, the way the influences have traveled from one language to another, the way in which the languages are developing today, and how invisible people and invisible languages have also begun to become visible on the larger literary scene. So I would like to open this up for discussion with a poem where I celebrate the brotherhood or sisterhood of all the poets of the world, not only poets, in fact all the writers of the world, with which I will invite my co-panelists to speak. This is called My Tribe. The Aztecs of Mexico believed that butterflies are the souls of the dead. From the youth killed in battles to the mothers dead in labor. My tribe believes that the borders of nations have been painted with the blood of the martyrs of border wars and the tears of their mothers, and that God has no caste or religion, no gender or race. Our nation's border is the sky. It has neither rulers nor subjects. Everyone knows every language. Woodpeckers speak Spanish as proficiently as the crows speak Malayalam. Here everyone can love everyone else consensually. Grass can love the worm, the sparrow, moonlight. Angels can love humans, and memories, dreams. All doors here lie wide open for cats, humans, and comets. There is no divide between past and present or future. Grammar does not stand guard to them. The right is simple. When one of us dies, we go on shedding leaves until another is born in the tribe. And then spring will come without even ringing a bell. We are the most ancient tribe on earth and the smallest. Our sign is a letter carved on a parrot's wing. We believe that we will be there as long as there are parrots and alphabets on the planet. We will be there wherever 5 people laugh together as one among them, and where one person weeps alone. So the writers together form a larger tribe, and we, the writers of South India, are in some sense a part of that larger tribe where we empathize with all those who suffer, we laugh with people who laugh, and we share common concerns, social as well as aesthetic. I'm not speaking anything about contemporary Malayalam writing. If at all there is some time, I'll speak about it later. I would like all of us together declare the festival inaugurated. And now I'll ask Shivaprakash to speak something about Kannada literature in its contemporary forms and maybe its relationship with tradition.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Sachi, for it was very insightful, terrific reading of Huxley and a wonderful poem. I compliment the organizers of this festival because it's first of its kind. For the first time, we're celebrating the unity and diversity of South Indian literatures. One of the pains of our literary history is that we've been writing histories of individual literatures. But our literatures have always lived and grown together, influencing each other and cross-fertilizing each other. I'm reminded of a phrase used by Kumanetu, 8th century poet from Karnataka. He talks about poetry as Sarvabhasha Saraswati. So poetry expresses this in so many languages, and that's what Satchidanandan's poems emphasized. Though there are lots of diversity in the South Indian languages, as Sachi pointed out, there's nothing like Vachana in Malayalam or in Tamil. Though Bharatiya later wrote what was called Vachana Kavinai. And we don't have anything like Tullal in Kannada, for example. There are lots of connections between all languages. For example, the foundations of South Indian poetics and aesthetics were laid down by Tolkappiyam, which divides poetry into Aham and Puram. Though Tolkappiyam had to wait for nearly 20 centuries to be translated into Kannada, the same categories of poetry are found in an ancient Kannada literature. One of the earliest inscriptional poems in Kannada describes a petty king. It says, Sadhu sadhu madhurya madhurya madhippa kaliga kaliga veritat madhavaritat tenadalla. What's the poet talking about? He is comparing the king, kind to kind, and sweet to sweet, and enemy to the enemy. So the values that he is celebrating are the values of Aham and Puram. Aham celebrates the theme of love, whereas Puram celebrates the theme of war. Aham is the woman's world, and Puram is the man's world. The same kind of emphasis, the same kind of trend that we find if we read our inscriptional poetry. And then comes a very big change in our South Indian tradition, which was introduced by the ascetic religions from the north. For example, when we read Siddalingeshwara follows many of the conventions of Tolkappiyam tradition, but it introduces a new theme. The theme is introduced by the figure of Govind Adigal, a Jain nun who is a kind of plays a commentatorial role in the whole epic. The theme of moksha has, for the first time, been introduced into our South Indian imagination through Tolkappiyam, through Siddalingeshwara, and later in Manipur. Similarly, in Kannada, after the centuries of inscriptional poetry, most of it is not extant now. For the first time, Adipurana, Adikavi Pampa, whose work is a translation of Purva Purana by Jyotiracharya, introduces again the theme of moksha. It narrates the story of Aditata Tenkana through bhavavalis, through many kinds of reincarnations in many worlds, and all those lives he enacts the drama of love and war. But in his last life as Puru Chakravarti, he realizes the emptiness of this world and he becomes a Jain monk. So the theme of moksha has entered literature through Jainism and perhaps Buddhism, because the only Buddhist epic I can remember from South India is Badinegale, which was a Mahayana Buddhist work. And then comes another big term which was introduced by Bhakti. Bhakti is neither the celebration of Aham values, nor Puram values, nor the value of moksha. Because one of the earliest Bhakti texts in Tamil, in Adal's Tirupavai, in the first stanzas of the 30 pastorals in this poem, Adal talks about Krishna's Vela and his is his beauty and so on and so forth. It's a kind of love poem to Krishna. But at the end, when they come face to face with Krishna, they don't ask for anything paltry. They ask only to be his slave in life after life after life. So this is the theme of bhakti, the theme of complete surrender, which transcends even the theme of moksha. Even the theme of moksha was not native to bhakti, which was later introduced when there was a lot of mix-up between ascetic religions and bhakti traditions. So, all the three literatures, major literatures in South India, united by these common themes, which unfold themselves in different ways, in different languages. There's some patterns also. For example, around the 16th and 17th century, in Tamil, you have the second phase of Siddha Bhakti movement in the form of Siddha Kavilai, and at the same time, we have the Tattvapada tradition, or Charana Kavya tradition in Karnataka, which is the most loosely organized kind of spiritual school of poetry and thought, which is common to all our languages. You have it in Telugu, you have something like Narayana Tata in Andhra, you have the Siddha Kavilai, the Tamil Patiratha others, in Kannada, Shishya Shrif, and several others, nearly 200, 300 such poets. We have a very rich tradition of what is called Siddha Kavilai in Tamil and Charana Kavya in Kannada. And so we have different, in North India, this is called Nirguna poetry, because there's a lot of common things common between the Nirguna poetry of Kavi and Ravidas and that of Siddha Kavilai of Tamil and Tattvapada traditions of Karnataka. So this is about the pre-modern Indian, South Indian literatures, but after the coming of capitalism, things changed. All of the languages underwent, big transformations. That's another story. I'm not going into that. But even when it was completely transmogrified by the foreign influences, some of the other influences have lived on. For example, Vachana tradition is still alive and kicking in Kannada because the language of Vachanas is more contemporary even today than that of contemporary poetry. So, though we are divided by distances, we are divided by diverse traditions, at the same time, there were lots of unities, and those unities are still surviving, and both our diversities and unities are undergoing changes in the context of contemporary times. So this is the time to take stock of what are our common points, what are differences, and how differently and how in how many unique ways we have been responding to the challenges of our age of globalization. So with these words I conclude so that I can pass on the mic to others and to share, we will be sharing their insights about our South Indian languages. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivaprakash, for once again reminding us of the kind of unity that exists among the four major South Indian languages. We have different stories to tell, but there are so many common points which connect the stories of all the languages. And that is what Volga is also going to speak about, how to build bridges among the languages, particularly South Indian languages.
Very happy to be with you all, and my greetings and congratulations to Book Brahma to make us this huge event to happen. And I try to share some thoughts on building bridges of words, past, present and future in the context of Telugu literature. It is always interesting to note how and why people of different languages want to connect through language, literature, ideas and books. This is not the type to go too deep into history, but from 19th century in the context of Telugu language and literature, some interesting things happened. the middle class from Andhra looked at Bengal where radical thoughts and practices were happening. For example, Brahmo Samaj and Telugu middle class radical persons went to Calcutta, lived there, learned Bengali and translated books from Bengal to Telugu. To give you some names, Mannava Buchaya Pantulu, Akurati Chalamaya, Kavikondala Samba Sivarao are the persons, some of the persons, and they translated works were Rammohan Kadha, Jeevana Vedamu, Tattva Bodhini, like this. Major works are about Brahmo Samaj, and Santiniketan was there to influence many Telugu people to go there and learn Bengali and translate. So it was radical new thought that was what provoked someone to go to a new place, learned a new language and enriched their own language. Later, unbelievable things happened. A person named Chakrapani in 1930s admitted in a TB sanatorium in Madanpalli, and in that sanatorium, the next bed was occupied by a Bengali patient. So, Chakrapani learned Bengali language from that man and translated major works of Sarath Chandra and other important Bengali writers. That's how translation started in Telugu. But with other languages, for example, with Tamil we see, from 19th century, Telugu people were in Madras, and all Telugu intellectuals, writers were situated in Madras. Telugu dailies, weeklies, magazines, and many publishing houses like Vavila Ramaswamy Pantulu and Sons, to the mushroomed publications, small publications publishing detective novels were situated in Madras. The whole Telugu cinema industry was in Madras, but nothing much happened between Tamil and Telugu. Major Telugu works were not translated into Tamil, and major Tamil writers were not translated into Telugu at that period. So why? They both people lived in one big city and exchanging so many things, learning each other language, but translation didn't happen. And also, Periyar influence was there, the ideology was there, but translations were less. With Kannada also, Malayalam also, the same thing happened. Kuvempu was not yet translated into Telugu. But after 1960s, with NBT and Sahitya Academy, some writers were known with one or two of their major works to Telugu readers. Though Telugu readers, including writers, are mostly interested in reading translations than original works, Indian languages literature was less in Telugu compared to Russian, American and English literature. Russian literature was a different story. After the Second World War, the USSR was a major major ideological force in the world, and many Telugu people were interested to learn Russian language. Some Telugu persons went to Moscow to translate Russian classics, and they were paid because USSR government was keen to promote their writers and their ideology into all Indian languages. So, is the ideology, so for some part of the 19th and 20th centuries, was the main reason for translation to happen. And another thing was, major writers from Telugu were not translated in other Indian languages until now. I don't even imagine how it happened. Because Harindranath Chattopadhyaya, Sarojini Naidu's brother, was lived half of his life in Andhra, a great friend of Telugu writers like Chalam, Krishna Sastri and Sri Sri, but he never put an effort to get his friends' works to be translated into Bengali. So that is very strange. We are translating from Bengal, though we don't know nothing about their credentials. But people like Harindranath Chaudhary and other persons didn't put any effort. Same case with other South Indian languages also. They didn't translate much from Telugu. Somehow from 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s, in Telugu translation came with an ideological background. I think the politics of those times were the cause. After 80s, 90s, slowly translation scene in Telugu changed. Not only NBT and Sahitya Academy, but translation houses like HBG came, and it is also standing for some radical ideas to be promoted from English and other Indian languages. My question and the idea behind this festival is why interlanguage translations are not taking place between South Indian languages, though there are 4 major cosmopolitan cities growing very fast. That is the point we have to discuss. So we have who will take the initiation? Is it possible in this atmosphere? How to train and develop interlanguage translations? What is the method we have to adopt? Like a method of Sangam House is there, where translator, original writer, and a person rooted in the language to be translated was also present. Like some experiments have to be taken place to translate these 4 South Indian languages from each other. So I am very disappointed that so much more should have happened, but now this effort of meeting all 4 South Indian languages, writers and readers is a very hopeful thing, and I think from this meeting something will shoot out, some forum, some council or workshop or something will happen to take forward the translations, translations in the Dravidian languages or South Indian languages. Thank you.
Thank you, Volga, for bringing in that important aspect of the relationship among the 4 South Indian languages, because it looks like that most of us are translating either from European languages or maybe from languages like Bengali and Hindi, but we have translated much less from other South Indian languages. And I'm sure Book Brahma is going to perhaps make a beginning, and maybe these festivals will be accompanied by translation workshops in future. I would like Jeyamohan to make a comment on what has been said and also say something on.
Good morning, everybody. Few years back, when I was in USA, one Westerner asked me, how many languages I know? I said, I'm well versed in 2 languages and I can manage to talk in English. And he was surprised. How do you know 2 languages in detail? I said, my mother tongue is Malayalam and I'm writing in Tamil. That was another surprise. But that's not surprise in our languages. See, there's few writers here in this hall, Tamil writers. One is Mr. Gopalakrishnan. His mother tongue is Kannada and he is writing in Tamil. Another one is our major poet in Tamil, Mr. Sukumaran, and his mother tongue is Malayalam. And another major Tamil writer, Su Venugopal, is here in this among the audience. His mother tongue is Kannada. That's a very unique South Indian phenomenon. And he's a Kannada writer, his mother tongue is Tamil. So, for a long time, continuous migration is was happening in South India, and we became one cultural area. We developed four literature out of it, but we have very lot of commonness, and we can say we belong to a single cultural nation. Once Bernard Shaw said, the US and America is two countries divided by one language. Similarly, we are one cultural nation united by 5 languages. So it's a great idea to celebrate this cultural nation, and I congratulate the organizers of this event, and I thank for them for this event. So I want to use this occasion to say something about Tamil literature. I can say a few trends what is going on here there in Tamil. One is 2 vanishing points. The postmodern trend is vanishing. I think there is no young writer today claims himself as postmodern. They are against that kind of labeling. And another vanishing identity is the Dalit literature. Even the senior Dalit writers in Tamil, once they claim themselves as the Dalit writers, nowadays they won't claim that name. Actually, they are against that labeling, and some verbally declare themselves that they are not Dalit writers, and we cannot use that word again to refer them. So 2 vanishing points, and I can say there is 2 emerging trends. The first thing is, we can label it as micro literature or micro aesthetics or anything. Today, our younger writers have no philosophical or political issues to discuss. They have no historical concerns. Their problem is the modern day high technology and the consumerism emerging around them. It creates a lot of problems in their personal relations, human relations. It creates very micro level problems, micro level issues. To attend that issues, they develop their kind of particular aesthetics, which I can say micro aesthetics. Their stories are not multi-layered or complicated or with historical or philosophical reference. They are very simple, yet they are very minute. I can use a simile. It's like a watch repair person's device. Very, very sharp and very tiny device. They are creative stories with very subtle content. They can be said in that way only. It is very unique in Tamil. I can refer some names. A lot of people are here. I am very glad to see a lot of known Malayalam and Tamil persons here. Sunil Krishnan, Karthik Balasubramanian, and Suresh Pradeep, Vishal Raja, Sushil Kumar. They are all writers. They are writing that micro details in their writing, and they are creating a very unique style of literature today. And another trend is, I can say that as spiritual romanticism. Our ancestors like Sundar Ramaswamy and Aswamitran taught us that romanticism is something totally against modern literature. Romanticism is idealism, and idealism is against modern literature. But at the same time, their contemporary was Vaikom Muhammad Bashir, a great romanticist and idealist. Today, some writers are following the path of Vaikom Muhammad Bashir. They are writing spiritualism in a highly romantic mode. I can refer Ajidan and Agara Mudalvan. Agara Mudalvan is an expatriate from Sri Lanka. He has high dreams about his nation and his emerging culture. So they are writing a kind of modern romanticism. That's a new trend. I can say there is 2 emerging trends in Tamil. One is this micro aesthetics and this spiritual romanticism. We can say there is kind of dialectics between two of these aesthetics going on in Tamil. And we have to see what is going to happen in future. സുഹൃത്തുക്കളെ, ഈ അരങ്ങിൽ ഇപ്പം ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ചെറിയ വാക്ക് പറയാം. കാരണം മലയാളം ഇവിടെ കേൾക്കണമെന്നുള്ളതുകൊണ്ടാണ്. തമിഴിൽ 2 പ്രവണതകളാണ് കാണുന്നത്. ഒന്ന്, സൂക്ഷ്മമായ ദൈനംദിന ജീവിതത്തിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള രചനകൾ. അതെഴുതുന്നവർ അവരുടേതായ ഒരു സൗന്ദര്യ ശാസ്ത്രം ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് വാച്ച് റിപ്പയർ ചെയ്യുന്നവരുടെ ഉപകരണം പോലെ അതിസൂക്ഷ്മവും വളരെ ചെറുതുമായ ഒന്നാണ്. ചരിത്രമോ തത്വചിന്തയോ തൊടാത്ത ഒരു തരം സാഹിത്യമാണ്. അതിൻ്റെതായ ഒരു സൗന്ദര്യശാസ്ത്രവും ഒരു രൂപഭദ്രതയും അവർ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതിലെ ചില എഴുത്തുകാരുടെ പേരുകളിലൂടെ ഞാൻ പറയുകയുണ്ടായി. ശ്രീ സുനിൽ കൃഷ്ണൻ, കാർത്തിക് ബാലസുബ്രഹ്മണ്യൻ, അനോജൻ ബാലകൃഷ്ണൻ, സുരേഷ് പ്രദീപ്, വിശാൽ രാജ, സുശീൽ കുമാർ, അങ്ങനെ കുറേ പേർ. മറ്റൊരു തരം എഴുത്ത് തമിഴിൽ കാണുന്നുണ്ട്. അത് നമ്മുടെ പൂർവികരായ സുന്ദരരാമസ്വാമി, അശോകമിത്രൻ തുടങ്ങിയവർ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ കൽപ്പനാവാദം എഴുത്തിൽ ഉണ്ടാവാൻ പാടില്ല, ആധുനിക സാഹിത്യം അതിന് സ്ഥാനമില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞതിനെതിരായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു എഴുത്താണ്. കൽപ്പനാവാദത്തെ ആധ്യാത്മികമായ കൽപ്പനാവാദത്തിന് മുമ്പോട്ട് വയ്ക്കുന്നതാണ്. അജിതൻ അകരമുതൽവൻ പോലുള്ളവർ അതാണ് എഴുതുന്നത്. അകരമുതൽവൻ ഒരു ശ്രീലങ്കൻ ദേശീയത്തിലുള്ള ആളാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ രാഷ്ട്രീയ സ്വപ്നങ്ങൾ അദ്ദേഹം എഴുതുന്നുണ്ട്. ഈ 2 പ്രവണതകളും തമ്മിലൊരു വൈരുദ്ധ്യാത്മികതയെ ഉണ്ടാക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അതിൻ്റെ ഫലങ്ങൾ വരും കാലത്തിൽ കാണാൻ കഴിയുമെന്ന് കരുതുന്നു. അനേവർക്കും വണക്കം. என்னுடைய தமிழ் நண்பர்கள் இங்கே இருக்கிறீர்கள். 2 போக்குகள் தமிழில் இருக்கின்றன என்று சொன்னேன். ஒன்று நுண் அழகிய, இன்னொன்று ஆன்மீக கற்பனாவாதம். 2 போக்குகளும் தமிழிலே 2 சக்திகளாக ஒரு முரண் இயக்கத்தை உருவாக்கி கொண்டிருக்கின்றன நினைக்கிறேன். அவற்றுடைய விளைவு எதிர்காலத்திலே பார்க்கலாம். நன்றி.
Thank you, Jeyamohan. He happens to be the only bilingual writer among us. Of course, Shivaprakash knows Tamil quite well, and most of us understand Tamil, I believe. He has also pointed out something extremely important, what's happening in Tamil literature today. And many similar tendencies are being shown in Malayalam literature also now, in various ways. What is the coming up of new tribal writers, and there is a greater use of dialects in the even in poetry, especially regional dialects, and a lot of people who are invisible in literature are coming up. Especially there is a whole genre of cure literature. We have recently published a collection of cure poetry in Malayalam. And there are quite a few writers from different regions which had not been articulated in Malayalam literature before. And so I think it is a kind of democratic movement, because democracy means making the invisible people visible and making you hear voices you have never heard. In that sense, at least literature in Malayalam is becoming more democratic, and I'm sure perhaps similar things are happening in other literatures in South India too. I would like Vivek to comment on this and to say whatever he wants to say.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I must congratulate and thank Book Brahma for organizing this unique and most important festival. I think it has come at a very right time. Shivaprakash talked about how our languages were connected in the past and what we were sharing in the past, and so as Satchidanandan and to some extent the Volga. I would like to take a slightly different view and see what is it that in the present that is connecting us, or rather the challenges that are there, which probably have a way of connecting us. And I think first and foremost is the globalization, which in the last 25-30 years has posed a completely different challenge to us. And that is something that all four languages, the cultures, all four cultures share. And the consequence of that is the disruptive technologies that have come in, and most importantly, the migration to the cities. And the migration to the cities have changed relationship of life and work, and the consequence of that is relationship between life and art. And I feel this is what is something that's a huge challenge that we must grapple with, face it, and confront. So that I feel is something that is common across all the languages, and in from today's perspective, that's very important. And how it has the challenges it has posed is the rise of the right, and which actually is connected with globalization and the drive towards consumerism. And the old ways of politics have, the response to the politics has to be different than what we used to have in the past. So this I feel is at the background and something that is connecting us. And in coming back to Kannada, and I would like to talk about the young writers, writers of significance, or writers, most talented writers from cities. And hence the themes that you see, Jeyamohan talked about the kind of themes in Tamil. I think in Kannada also we are not very different. But the themes that we see is the conflict between city and villages, and which have been the theme for decades in Kannada. And it is just that we are putting it in a different context and in a different language. But then I think that is still the dominant theme. And having said all this, the background about globalization and politics and whatnot, the caste and the inequality is unchanged, and that plays a major role in the background. I'm very hopeful of the new writers. At the same time, I'm also nervous. I'm hopeful because there is a lot of enthusiasm and there are so many people who are writing today in Kannada. I'm nervous because I've seen writers after one or two collections, they burn out, they start writing the same thing again and again. Because of the concerns that Jeyamohan talked about, and I will elaborate it a little more later in my speech, that the overall understanding of politics, the overall understanding of conflicts, and the philosophical aspect of it is something that is not taking place as much as it should have been. There are many writers, and also there are many women writers in Kannada. There is Kavya Kadme, there is Shanti Appanna, very promising, very excellent writer. There is Padmana Bhatt, there is Madhu, who has written a novel which is about teenage life. Because in Kannada we don't have the kind of Bildungsroman kind of novels, which is coming of age novels, and he has done that wonderfully well, very well written novel, interesting. So there are people who are exploring different themes, different kind of challenges. Similarly, we have Dadapir Jaiman, we have Indra Kumar, we have Kusma Ayerli. There are many people who are exploring different, but the nervousness of mine, which is to go beyond one or two collections, because one of our famous poets, Ramchandra Sharma, always used to say, everyone has a book in him or her. And it's always the writer's mettle is tested after the second or the third book. And I feel that is something which is really true, because everyone has a book in us, at least one book. I talked about challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges for us is social media. Because people who have, people get into digital ghettos, I must say. Because they just group themselves and not really wanting to go out. And these digital ghettos really provide echo chamber. And people are just unwilling to see, because the kind of satisfaction that they get in expressing their views and getting responses is very against literature. What I mean by against literature is, it is what really requires one to sustain, hold on, ponder over, whether it is love or whether it is grief. It is just people don't know where to draw a line between the private and the public, and that I feel is making a deep impact on people's minds, on their emotions, in exploring philosophical aspect of what human behavior is and what human life is. And I feel it's a huge challenge that the younger generation need to really confront. Because some of them, I was talking about the inadequate understanding of the new politics. Because some people even argue that Facebook is very democratic space. I mean, which really means that so inadequate understanding of the market. While it may seem so, but there are the underlying intentions are of completely different kind. The other challenge, I think I'll stop in a minute. The other challenge is the lack of exposure to world literature. And I feel that is absolutely necessary, which our previous generation had, and this generation is completely missing. Because the concerns that I shared was not just with the South Indian languages, South Indian cultures, it is also all over the world. The rise of the right is all over the world. It is very, very important for us to understand what other cultures, what other writers, contemporary writers, I'm not talking about contemporary writers, are thinking and how they are responding to this. And for young writers, I feel it is absolutely essential that this exposure to other literatures, whether it is our own neighboring literature or elsewhere in the world, is absolutely necessary. I feel, Volga talked about translations. I feel it is necessary that we address this immediately, because we really don't know what our contemporaries are thinking in other languages. We are just living and talking in our own echo chambers. I'll stop for now. Thank you for this opportunity.
I thank my co-panelists for having brought out so many issues which I'm sure are going to be the themes of discussion in the coming sessions. Of course, there is a kind of negotiation going on between the local and the global in most of our literatures. It's true about Malayalam also. In fact, some of the most important Malayalam novels that have come out recently from the young generation are about, one is about Palestine. In fact, Sheila Tomei went to Palestine and stayed there and studied the whole problem and wrote a wonderful novel on that. And there is Harita Savitri, who went to Istanbul. She went to Turkey and studied the Kurd issue and wrote a beautiful novel around the Kurd issue. Beautiful not only because of the issue she's speaking about, but the kind of language that she has brought into novel. And I've just completed reading another novel on the complexities of the issue of Kashmir that we are facing today. So the opening of the virtual world has in fact brought in so many new themes and new ways of writing and publishing and looking at languages. And perhaps we are, I think, at a critical turn in all our literatures where it is a little unpredictable as to in which direction we are going to move in the future. And this uncertainty, I believe, is quite productive, and all our languages are perhaps going to either face a crisis or maybe develop new phases and movements in our literatures. With that hope, and with the hope that there will be more translations and exchanges among the South Indian languages, we conclude this session. I thank my co-panelists, and I thank all of you for your extremely patient listening. Thank you.
ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಕೆ ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಅವರಿಗೆ, ಎಚ್.ಎಸ್. ಶಿವಪ್ರಕಾಶ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ, ಬಿ ಜಯಮೋಹನ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ, ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ವೋಲ್ಗಾ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ವಿವೇಕ್ ಶಾನ್ಭಾಗ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಈ ವೇದಿಕೆಯ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ಜನತೆಯ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಹೃದಯಪೂರ್ವಕ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಸರ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Mr. K. Satchidanandan, Mr. H.S. Shivaprakash, Mr. B. Jeyamohan, Madam Volga, and Mr. Vivek Shanbhag. A heartfelt thanks to all of you for gracing us with your presence and contributing significantly for the inaugural session. Thank you so much, sir.
ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಉತ್ಸವದ ಮಂಟಪದಲ್ಲಿ ತೆಂಕಣ ನುಡಿ ಕೌದಿ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಕ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿ ಇದೀಗ ತಾನೇ ಮುಗಿದಿದೆ. ಈ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯ ಸೆಷನ್ನ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಸಿದ್ಧಲಿಂಗೇಶ್ವರ ಬುಕ್ ಡಿಪೋ ಮತ್ತು ಪ್ರಕಾಶನ.
Also thanking our partners for the day, Platinum partner Ramaya University, University of Applied Sciences, Golden partner ELSITA, Elshia, Karnataka Tourism, Silver partner Pali Institute, Kalburgi, Prarthana World School, Associate partners MG Motors, Sapna, Salt, Sheshadripuram Educational Trust, Kaveri Hospital, Selco, Siri, Kaveri Emporium, Alvaz, Andolana, Ankita Pustaka, Bhavani, Blossoms, Kambada Kone, Polestar, Tallurs, Tescom, Vidyarthi Bhavana, and She SR. Thank you so much.